Your eco-conscious business. And today I am joined by Jan Gould of Inspiring Growth, and we're talking about reinvention to embrace change and grow your business. So welcome, Jan.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
Oh, lovely to have you on the show. So Inspiring Growth support organizations to enhance employee satisfaction and lasting business growth, as well as mentoring individual clients through reinvention at key crossroads in their careers. So we're going to launch straight into the questions and find all about what this reinvention is. And my first question, Jan, is can you tell us about your reinvention curve and the various stages of reinvention?
Yeah, absolutely. It just occurred to me this morning, actually, Karen, that the reinvention curve itself is a reinvention of the work I've been doing for the last 30 years, because throughout my whole career, I've worked with organisations going through significant change and worked with individuals, teams, and the whole business to help them through that journey. And initially, it was labelled change management, and there's many change curves around that some of you might have come across. And then I moved into transition planning, and then about 2 years ago invented the reinvention curve, because for me, when I'm working with clients, either as individuals or teams, it's that real journey of managing the 3 stages, which I'll go through in a second. And for reinvention, particularly those reinventions that you haven't chosen yourself, I work a lot with organisations that are going through redundancy programs. So you haven't chosen to reinvent yourself, it's been imposed upon you. And one of the big issues is that leaves people or organisations to feel out of control. So one of the main purposes of the reinvention curve is to give people a toolkit to help them successfully manage and navigate the ups and downs of reinvention, so that they really maximise that opportunity and look after themselves on the journey. So very low tech, here is my reinvention curve. So if you want to see more and read more, I write about it a lot on LinkedIn. But there are broadly 3 stages. So change reinvention starts with an ending. There's always some sort of ending involved in starting this process. And whatever that ending is, there'll be positive and negative things. So even, say the example of moving to the seaside, which has been my dream for a long time. It's something you're excited about, it's something you're seeing really positive, but one of the negatives might be that you're moving further away from your family. So the starting point is to really identify the positive and negative endings. Then you start to look forward to the other end of the curve, which is the new beginnings. And likewise, the positive things are those things that you're really looking forward to. What are you hoping will come out of this reinvention? And then the negative is, what are you worried might happen? And in some cases, there's an overlap of themes, but that really doesn't matter, because the important thing is to really highlight the positive and the negative. And for the positive, it's what actions can I take to really embrace those opportunities and to maximise the chances of those positive things happening. And for the negative, it's how do I manage that risk? So say, for instance, I work a lot with people in that career wind down phase. And that's where I first actually started using the word reinvention, because I absolutely hate the word retirement. It's so negative. So how do I reinvent myself with that gift of time of not necessarily committing myself to so many hours working? So one of the things people are obviously worried about is money. So what can I do to actually minimise the risk of not having enough money to live on when I walk away from this big job? So it's really a toolkit to understand the beginnings and endings. But the middle stage, which I think is most important, I mean, when I first came across transition work, William Bridges calls it the neutral zone, but I think there's nothing neutral about it at all. I see it more of a no man's land, where you don't feel part of the world that you've left behind, but you don't yet feel in that next chapter. And that is where I find my clients need most support, because there's a natural tendency to rush through that because it feels exciting one moment, frightening the next, and very uncomfortable. But that's where they really need to embrace new skills, new habits, take on new knowledge to really make sure that journey is something that's going to they're going to look back on at the end of the reinvention and say, that was a bit tough, but actually, I'm really glad it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Brilliant. And I know you held up and I do follow you on LinkedIn, and yeah, I think it's wonderful, all the penguins. So why do you use penguins?
Well, the penguins we took, I worked with the wonderful Lynn Stainthorpe on the development of the penguins, and they all do tell a story. I'm a big believer in a picture says 1,000 words. So we worked very hard on the body language of the penguins. But anyone that knows me personally knows I've got a bit of a thing about penguins. I don't know where it came from, but take me to a zoo, put me by the penguins, and then come and pick me up when you're finished. That's all I want to see. And there's lots of reasons. I mean, I think they're very resilient, they're very adaptable. You know, they've learnt, their wings have actually changed from a typical bird so that they can swim. They're very loyal. They're very loyal to their partner, their offspring, and they endure all types of, you know, rough conditions. You know, how they live, how they give, you know, how they hatch their eggs, how they collect their food. It's all really hard work, but they do it with, you know, the equivalent of the penguin's smile on their face, and they're fun and they're smart and they just keep going. So the more we talked about it, Lynn and I, the more we thought, yeah, penguins work. It's not just me indulging my little love of them. So we've probably got a bit carried away because the penguins are seeping into other parts of my business. But you know, I'm hoping someone will tell me if we need to pull back on the penguin.
I know, I love them, and I know you use them in different ways, and they all got their own kind of character to represent something. I think sort of visual analogies are great, and yeah, I've always thought penguins are amazing the way, and they're collaborative as well, aren't they? I mean, that's something when they get together in the cold and they kind of take turns on who's going to be on the outside to keep the rest of them warm and be brunt in the cold. Yeah. So what are some of the tips? Sorry.
That they operate well as individuals, as pairs, and as teams. And I think, you know, alongside the stages of reinvention, you've also got the different emotions, you know. So we've worked hard to express those. And one thing to say is that we've represented it as a tidy curve going from start to finish, but it's very typical for people to start at one point and sort of almost move backwards and forwards along the reinvention curve like a marble until they eventually get to the here I come penguin, which is the sign that, you know, your reinvention is complete until the next one.
Yeah, because you obviously always go through different stages in your life, like you say, if you move home, if you know, if something changes in business, or you change jobs or something like that. So there's so many different ways, as you say, you can help people along that curve. So what are some of the tips that you use with clients that could, you know, for those people listening in, that could help us with kind of confidence and growing our business?
Yeah, I mean, I've got 7 tips. So looking at the time here, I'll try and rattle through those. But yeah, I call it my 7 steps to successful reinvention. And we came up with this curve and this concept just before the pandemic. And there are obviously examples of the resilience and the way businesses have had to reinvent themselves. That's happened so much in the last year, 18 months. But the first step is to recognise that the only thing that is constant is change. And actually, you as a business owner, if you spend your energy trying to resist change, you're not going to survive. And really to take that reality pill that change and evolution and reinvention is just part of the way things happen. And actually, one of the reasons I don't use the word change is because particularly some of the big organisations I work with, they've sort of got change fatigue, you know, oh, here's another change programme, here's another change programme, whereas it just should feel like evolution and continuous improvement and growth, really. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is to be patient with yourself. And remember when I was talking about the no man's land, to really recognise that actually if you don't rush through reinvention and you give yourself time to reflect, to come up with ideas, to consult, you will enjoy the journey more, and you will actually get more out of it. And for people who don't like things being a bit messy in their lives and a bit feeling that bit out of control, that's when they have to really sort of remind themselves and motivate themselves on the value of really not going from start to finish in 5, in one move. Step number 3 is the need to accept temporary solutions. And I think this is one thing that there's been so many examples around us in the last year. So, so many restaurants started delivery services that were never even thought of doing that before. We've got an amazing micro pub down the road, and Lucy Doe, the owner there, she started making gin, and which is wonderful. I've sampled a lot of it, so there's loads of examples of people putting in place temporary ways of keeping the business going until they can get that element of creating their new beginnings. Tip number 4 is really to try and embrace no man's land, and to recognise the shape of the transition curve, the reinvention cycle. I think lots of people that I work with, they're either very focused on the endings, particularly say people winding down their careers, or teams that are being sort of disbanded, and then they ignore the new beginnings, and vice versa. If you've got a great idea and you want to, so if you don't look at positive and negatives, and if you don't look at the beginnings and the endings, you're not going to get the complete picture, and you're not going to put in place all the actions you need to put in place to embrace the positive and manage the risks of the negative.
Okay, I'm just aware of the time here, and just for our audience, because we have gone over a couple of minutes.
Oh, sorry,
I really want to
hear. Did warm it went quickly.
I do, yeah, and I'd love to hear more, but I'm just aware.
The other 3 are on the on my LinkedIn, so I'll,
okay, yeah, or we can share them as well. If we have a chat afterwards, we can share those in the comments. But yeah, and I also just to quickly let you know, if you want to get hold of Jan, you can find her at inspiring-growth.co.uk. On LinkedIn, if you just search for Jan Gould, so JanGould. And just quickly, what is your top eco tip?
My top eco tip is not to underestimate the value of little changes. One I've done this year is a friend kindly bought me a soda stream, and I've worked out I've already saved over 1,000 bottles of plastic sparkling water. So if we all do little things, that adds up to being big things.
That's fantastic. Oh, well, thank you so much. I'm so sorry to cut you short. I hate doing this, because I know there's people listening who will probably quite happily listen on, but we will definitely, we'll share the rest of those with you. Maybe if you've got a post that does that, then I'll link that to the video, so you think people can go straight there and read more about it and see your lovely penguins. So thank you so much for joining us, Jan.
Pleasure. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll have to get you back on and you can do some more tips, and we'll start with the tips next time. Make our way through. Fantastic. To all our viewers who are watching, thank you so much. We will see you the same time next week. Thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.